Gentlemen, please welcome John Anderson.
Well, Jordan and Dave, thank you so much for giving us your time. JohnAnderson.net is basically dedicated to something that is very, very dear to me as someone who is very worried about our country and where we're going. And it's that you cannot get good public policy without a good public debate. And it seems now we don't have debates anymore. We just have abusive, emotional mudslinging. So that's the background theme. But then we come to this incredible opportunity today to engage with these two gentlemen. And I wanted to get the ball rolling by talking about a number of issues. Firstly, personal responsibility. Then I'd like to move on to freedom. What is it? Because it's not license. It's not what so many people think it is today, and how do we make it work? I then want to talk about courage, because we're going to need a lot of it going forward. And you're going to hear a lot, or see demonstrated some real courage, I think, here in what we're going to talk about and what you're going to hear, what you're going to witness. Then a bit about social media and how we make it all work. And then it's over to you. We live in an age when it seems that there's a crisis of trust in our culture. It seems that we are very uncertain of our institutions and the people who make them up and what their motivations might be. And indeed, the research backs that up. The Australian National University has been tracking Australia's confidence in their politicians and the political process now for many decades. We are in uncharted waters. Record numbers of Australians no longer have confidence in the system. Record numbers of Australians now distrust the political process and the players in it. Just more recently, we've had the latest of a series of royal commissions of inquiry into various institutions, this time banking and the financial services. And we learnt that we couldn't trust bankers. Now, there are many trustworthy bankers, in case there are any here, but plainly, people were deeply concerned by what emerged. And you stop and think about this. When people are in relationships of trust, harmony and progress can be made. When it breaks down, harmony and progress are impaired and people flee for safety. If you don't feel safe with someone else, you'll look for the rule book and you'll look for policing and you'll look for protection. So it's a good thing we've had the Royal Commission of Inquiry so we know what's been going on. It's a good thing we've got the 78 recommendations, new laws everywhere, new surveillance, new policing. But it's a tragedy that it was necessary in the first place, that people have not been doing what they should have been doing without coercion. So now we've got a great big battle as to how to resolve these things. You see, the law-based approach. But Jordan, you've said something quite different. In the midst of all of this, what you have said is that the redemption of the world is not political, it happens at the level of the individual. That's not what we hear in the media every night there's a new scandal. It's we need more rules, we need more policing, we need more surveillance, we need a different party in power. You're not saying that. You're saying it comes back to the individual.
Well, the first question is, do you want that? I mean, do you want a state with more regulatory power? Do you want a state with more surveillance? I mean, first of all, why would you think that that would be trustworthy when all the evidence suggests in the past that as a state expands its surveillance power, it actually becomes less trustworthy rather than more? And why would you might think, well, I certainly want someone looking into your affairs, but I don't want anybody looking into mine. Well, good luck with that, because, to the degree that I have elect someone to look into your affairs, they're bloody well going to be looking into mine as well. And that just doesn't strike me as a particularly positive development. And practically, because I don't believe it'll work. I don't think surveillance states do make people more honest. I think all the evidence is the opposite. And then I would say from the individual perspective, it's like I believe that the fundamental, what we got fundamentally right in the West, because there is a number of things we got fundamentally right, even though we don't like to admit that anymore, is that the ultimate moral responsibility for the state relies on you. It relies on your moral integrity. And you know, it's not that hard to think that through. It's like, well, first of all, you have the right and the responsibility to vote. And we could say, well, that's not exactly given to you by the state. It's something that exists in some sense outside and before the state. It's part and parcel of your intrinsic value. Okay, so that's a decision that we've made in the West, that each person, regardless of their flaws, is characterized by a value, an intrinsic value that's so deep and so profound that the very regulation of the state itself rests on their shoulders. And that's really something. That's why you have the right to vote. And that's worth thinking about. The first question is, well, do you think that's a good idea or not? Like, do you believe that we are, in fact, sovereign individuals? And then, well, let's assume that you believe that we are, because the alternative is some sort of autocracy, right? It's some sort of tyranny. It's the parsing off of that sovereignty to a bureaucracy or to some arbitrary form of leadership. And maybe you can believe in that, and you'd like a strong leader, and fine, but you want to think that through. Because if it's not that, then it's you. Well, then if it's you, and you have to make sure that the ship of state is sailing properly, then the first thing you might want to ask yourself is, what makes you think you're any more trustworthy than the people that you're despising or criticizing? I mean, if you are, well, more power to you, but it isn't self-evident that you are, and my suspicions are that it's not even self-evident to you that you are, because it's a very rare person that you come across. If you talk to them with any degree of seriousness, you know, they're able to lay out a whole litany of ways they fall short of their own values, not values that other people are putting on them, certainly that as well. And they can name innumerable ways that not only are they not doing what they should be doing, so they're falling short of the mark in that way, but they're doing all sorts of things that they definitely shouldn't be doing, and they know it.